So, with the S22 recently launched, we spent some time with every single model in the lineup, and our overriding feeling so far is that we have more than just reached peak Samsung smartphone. But with that said, here are some hands-on thoughts with all of the colours and all of the options of the Galaxy S22 series. Thanks for watching 9to5 Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe and then tap the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. So before we talk about our first impressions of the Galaxy S22 series, let's give you a little rundown of all of the colour options and the design changes to give you an idea of what you can expect. And it is worth noting that every single model in the Galaxy S22 and the S22 Plus series, they come in 4 matte colours, all of which are the same no matter which device you use. And they are using recycled plastic, but I will say that in the hand, this feel is almost paperish. My personal favourite was the green, and although all colour options do avoid fingerprints quite prominently, it was noticeable that moisture was picked up, especially on that green and matte black option in certain lighting conditions. It wasn't quite as prominent obviously on that white and pink models respectively. The big change here is going to be to that camera module, now that it is using a brushed metal finish rather than polished aluminum with polished side rails instead, which I can probably imagine are going to be very, very scratch and fingerprint prone without wearing a case on these devices, which many of you will probably do anyway. I think if you care about a clean look, then the white and pink gold models, they are going to be where you should be placing your attention with the S22 and the S22 Plus. The matte black though, that looks a little bit more like a deep grey in the bright lighting conditions of the hands-on session that we had, and it is very, very close to the S21 Ultra's matte black, although I would say maybe a shade lighter. I can easily see this being a popular option for those wanting a stealthy phone, and it is great to see Samsung continue with stealthy matte black options available for all of their lineup this year. The Galaxy S22 Ultra though, that looks very different with the removal of that wraparound camera bump, but the lineup here has the core green, matte black, matte white, and then there is an exclusive burgundy option for you to choose. Unlike the S22 and S22 Plus though, the actual finish does look a little bit more pearlescent, which is most obvious on the white model, as the rear panel does sort of catch in certain lighting conditions, looking very much like a pearl colour as I mentioned. The matte black is, as much like it is on the S22 and S22 Plus, a shade lighter here than the Galaxy S21 Ultra for what it's worth, but it's always hard to truly tell in event lighting conditions, which can be notoriously unpredictable and hard to work with. So do take that with a grain of salt until you see these in the flesh for the first time yourself. I will say that the standout colours are undoubtedly that burgundy and green model, but it is nice to see some really interesting colours for the series this time around. I'm sure you'll agree with me. So that's a very brief look at the colours out of the way, but what about the actual devices themselves? Well, I've got to say over the years, we've seen the Galaxy S series evolve and shift to become one of the biggest blockbuster launches in the Android space each and every year. And while that is undoubtedly the case here with the Galaxy S22, S22 Plus and the S22 Ultra, the changes at least over the past few iterations are now becoming almost indistinguishable from one another. A case in point is with the Galaxy S22 Ultra, a device which is now in the Note series in all but name. The introduction of that integrated S Pen is really nice to see, but it feels more apt than ever before, with the Fold and Flip series offering what feels like all of the innovation and hardware differentiation from Samsung, and it seems like the Korean firm is really hell-bent on cannibalizing its old and own lines, or at least merging them into one another for a brand new look. The Galaxy S22 Ultra feels, at least in my opinion, very close to the Note 10 series to me, at least more so than any of the previous Galaxy S or even Note model. Design-wise, the soft curves and corners of the Galaxy S21 Ultra, they've given way to what is a boxier frame and much more squared off edges. By as well reducing that camera nodule at the rear, the Ultra has pretty good in-hand balance and an overall more slender profile that is likely going to be welcome to many of you out there who thought the S21 Ultra was a bit of a beast. I've got to say though, Samsung's attention to the colours and the finishes, they're very welcome, and the matte design kind of reflects fingerprints and deflects them much more effectively here too this time around. I will say that to me the most striking colour across the entire series is undoubtedly the new green option, but all of the other finishes, they look and feel far better in person than they will do in renders, and even some of these video clips that you're seeing on screen now. I will say though, because of this major focus on the S22 Ultra, it certainly feels, at least from afar, that Samsung has spent less time attempting to elevate the standard Galaxy S22 and S22 Plus experience this time around. The changes, they seem so incremental that it would be easy to confuse the S21 with the S22. Even when in hand, you kind of realise that the screen sizes, they're the only things that have really decreased ever so slightly. The only obvious change from afar is that the Galaxy S22 and S22 Plus, the frame has changed slightly here. Samsung has squared off the chassis to a minor extent, but this certainly does improve grip without actually the frame itself getting too sharp on your hands. That is in contrast though to the Ultra, which has somewhat sharp bottom bezels and extremely rounded sides. It's immediately obvious that there is a line being drawn in the sand to add more obvious design separation between the Ultra and the baseline models this time around, and it is definitely very prominent. Confusingly though, the delayed launch of the Galaxy S22 FE though, this feels even more confusing. Those looking for a new device should undoubtedly avoid that at all costs, unless you can score some huge discounts, as the baseline Galaxy S22 provides a major step up in almost all areas, save for the actual battery capacity, for under $100. I will say that performance seems as good as it ever has, courtesy of the Exynos 2200 model, which I did test, or the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, which will be in the North American versions. One UI 4.1 does come pre-installed, but the changes were pretty hard for us to spot, if there are any at all. For the Galaxy S22 Ultra, all of the Note's old S Pen features, they return, including the ability to do things such as activate the camera shutter with the actual button on the S Pen itself, do things like on-screen remotes, and of course much more, which you will love. For first-time S Pen users, this might prove a useful or even become a side note accessory that never really leaves that neat silo storage at the bottom of the phone. Obviously, it is hard to truly assess just what's going into this new trio with just an hour or so of hands-on time with all three devices, but whether it's a lack of ideas or not, the Galaxy S22 and S22 Plus feel very much like a major plateau for the series. There are at least few areas of real outright innovation this time around, and of course a winning formula doesn't necessarily need too many tweaks, but for some of you out there, I'm sure you could see this as lazy. With regard to the Galaxy S22 Ultra though, the fusion of the Galaxy S and Note lines seems as though it's probably been coming for a long time, and it makes sense to seal the distinct devices together given that the latter lineup has now been officially discontinued. Hardcore Note fans out there will now have a device that offers many of the features that they feared were lost, and now with a flagship processor and camera setup to match. And while it may confuse some, it already feels like a solid follow-up to the Note 20 series, but with much of the S21 Ultra DNA thrown in for good measure, including some proposed camera enhancements. All in all, it's probably fair to say that Samsung's efforts are now fully focused upon the Fold and Flip series, for better or worse, and that isn't an indictment of the Galaxy S22 at this early stage, but if you are expecting massive sweeping upgrades, it's a case of minor tweaks, and at least with the Ultra model specifically, and now an integrated S Pen. Of course, we will have a full review of the trio in the upcoming weeks, but until then, we would love to know your thoughts on this brand new Galaxy S22 series. Is this the merger of the Note and Galaxy S series with the Ultra model a good thing or a bad thing? Let us know down in the comment sections below, but until next time, hopefully you enjoyed this look at the latest Samsung smartphone series. So this is Damien with 9to5 Google saying thanks for watching, and I will speak to you later.